333 BCE, near Issus. Picture this. You are marching north along a narrow strip of land. Mountains press in on one side. The sea blocks the other. There is no space to retreat. In front of you stands the Persian Empire. Darius III has finally come in person, with 100,000 soldiers drawn from every corner of Asia. Elite cavalry, the Immortals. Greek mercenaries paid to kill their own kind. Alexander is completely out of position. He commands barely 37,000 men, unrested after weeks of hard marching and badly outnumbered. Worse still, Darius believes he has trapped him. The Persian king thinks the war is about to end, that the Macedonian army has been cut off and cornered. By every rule of ancient warfare, he is right. But Issus is not the battle Darius thinks he is fighting. Within hours, everything the Persians believed about this battle will be wrong. For the first time in Persian history, the King of Kings will abandon the battlefield while the fighting is still undecided. Alexander will not destroy an empire that day, but he will shatter the authority that holds it together. How did an army that should not have survived force the most powerful ruler on earth to turn and flee in the middle of battle? By the end of this video, you'll see how a battle that should have been lost redefined what power meant in the ancient world. If this is the kind of history you enjoy, consider subscribing. So why do historians still return to Issus? This is not a battle either king planned to fight. Before the armies meet, you need to see the moves that forced them here, because Issus begins long before the fighting does. A year earlier, Alexander had crossed into Asia and smashed Persian forces at the Granicus River. Then he did something unexpected. Instead of marching inland toward the Persian heartland, he turned south, seizing ports, cities, and coastlines. Not to conquer land, but to destroy Persian naval power. City by city, the coastline fell. The Persian fleet was slowly strangled, but Persia does not sit idle. After the shock of Granicus, the empire adapts. Darius places the war in the hands of one of the few men who understood how dangerous Alexander was and how he had to be fought, Memnon of Rhodes, a Greek mercenary commander in Persian service. Memnon avoids direct battle. Instead, he opens a second front. Persian fleets surge back into the Aegean. Islands fall into Persian hands. Greek cities begin to waver. Rebellion stirs behind Alexander's lines. For the first time, the invasion is genuinely endangered, not by armies in front of him, but by collapse at home. Alexander is overextended, far from Greece, with no navy and no margin for error. Then, without warning, the war changes. Not through battle, but through chance. Memnon falls ill and dies. Historians would later argue about what this meant: luck, fate, or simply the randomness that governs war. Whatever it was, Alexander is spared the fight he might not have survived. The Persian counteroffensive loses its architect, and with him, its momentum. Now the war stops drifting and starts moving toward collision. While Alexander advanced further into Asia, the response comes from the heart of the empire. In Susa, Darius III does not hesitate. He orders a royal army assembled, not a satrapal force, not a proxy war, an army drawn from across Asia, tens of thousands, cavalry, infantry, the full weight of imperial power. For the first time, the great king will lead in person. Darius marches west, with his court, his treasury, and his family traveling with the army. This is not just a campaign. It is a display of authority in motion. Both armies moved toward Syria, each believing they were forcing the other into a trap. Alexander reached Issus first. The city fell quickly, and before marching south, he left behind his wounded, men too sick or injured to continue. Then Darius made his move. He marched north through the mountain passes, slipped behind the Macedonian army, and seized Issus itself. What he found there was not a garrison, but Alexander's wounded. They were executed. When the news reaches Alexander, everything changes. The Persian king is no longer ahead of him. He is behind. That night, Alexander gathers his commanders. There is no speech meant to inspire, only certainty. They will turn back. They will march through the darkness. They will take the pass before dawn. The army moves at night. Torches kept low. Orders whispered. By midnight, they reach the heights again. The pass is taken. Sentries are posted along the rocks. The army rests in silence, waiting for light. The darkness lifts. Below lies a narrow plain, and the Persian army, waiting. There is no room left for hesitation. This was not a battlefield chosen by either king. It was a narrow coastal plain. The sea pressed in from the west. Mountains rose hard and steep to the east, and between them ran a shallow river, the Pinaris. Here, space vanished. Persia's greatest strength, its numbers, had nowhere to go. Cavalry could not sweep wide. Formations could not expand. An army built to overwhelm was forced to compress. Alexander saw it immediately. This land did not reward size. It rewarded control, timing, and nerve. Both armies arrive believing there will be no second chance. To understand what happens next, you need to see where everyone stands. Darius deploys first. At the center, he places himself in the royal chariot, guarded by the Immortals, with Greek mercenaries packed tightly along the riverbank. Infantry fills the narrow plain behind them, rank upon rank. Persian archers mass in the rear. Cavalry crowds the shoreline near the sea. On the other side, Alexander answers with precision. The center of his battle line was formed by heavy infantry armed with long sarissa pikes. Cavalry was placed on the far ends of both flanks. The Salian units on the left, and elite companion cavalry directly under Alexander on the right. On the far left, Parmenion takes command. Both armies stand ready. The fighting begins on the Persian right. Cavalry surges forward, wave after wave, driving hard along the shoreline toward Parmenion's flank. Parmenion does not wait. He orders a countercharge. Both cavalries crash together near the sea, horses colliding, ranks breaking, men thrown from the saddle. The pressure is immense. The Macedonian left bends, holds, begins to strain. At the same moment, the center moves. Alexander orders the phalanx forward. They descend into the river, climb the far bank, and are met by arrows, shields locked. Sarissas drive ahead. Seeing the moment, Darius gives the order. The Persian infantry surges forward, thousands at once, pressing down toward the phalanx in a crushing countercharge. The fighting turns brutal. Bodies collide, spears shatter. Under the weight of the assault, the Macedonian center falters. Then Alexander moves. On the Macedonian right, he gives the signal. The companions surge forward as one. They plunge across the Pinaris straight into the Persian left. The impact is immediate. The first Persian line buckles. Shields split. Formations tear apart. There is no pause. The charge keeps going. Alexander drives through the broken front, into the second line before it can stabilize. The Persian left staggers, then collapses. What was meant to hold the flank becomes a breach. And through it, Alexander keeps pushing. On the Macedonian left, Parmenion is in trouble. Persian cavalry presses in from every side, numbers without end, horses crashing forward. Parmenion's flank begins to give ground, slowly, stubbornly, fighting not to win, but to survive. At the same moment, the center buckles. The Macedonian phalanx is engaged frontally, pressed hard by elite Persian infantry. The Immortals advance in disciplined ranks, shields locked, spears driving forward. This is what they were built for. Sarissas struggle to find space. Momentum bleeds away. Step by step, the pressure mounts. The Macedonian center begins to give ground, not breaking, but bending. The line holds only by effort now. Alexander does not stop. After shattering the Persian left, he wheels inward, hard and fast, not toward glory, toward necessity. The Macedonian center is buckling. Companions and hypaspists slam into the Persian center from the flank and rear, cutting into packed infantry that never saw the turn coming. Men crushed where they stand. The pressure breaks the Persian center open, and only then, through dust, bodies, and collapsing ranks, Alexander sees him, the royal chariot, the standard. He gathers what remains of his cavalry and drives straight at the heart of it. The distance closes. Darius hesitates. Then the King of Kings turns and flees, and with him, the battle unravels. Everything follows. The cavalry near Parmenion breaks. The center dissolves. Men who have not been defeated begin to run, not because they have lost the battle, but because they have lost the king. Issus ends in collapse, not of an army, but of authority itself. Alexander pursues Darius, 25 miles, until night ends the chase. The king escapes, but everything else remains. When Alexander returns, he finds the royal camp intact. Gold, silver, treasures beyond counting. He surveys it all, then turns to his friends. This, it would seem, is to be a king. Also present were members of Darius's family, his wife, his mother, his daughters. He treats the captured women with respect, not as spoils, as royalty. This restraint signals something new, not just conquest, but legitimacy. Issus did not end Persian resistance. Darius still lived. The empire's heart still beat, but its center had been broken. The King of Kings had fled his own battlefield, and everyone saw it. Then Alexander turned south, toward Tyre, mother of the ancient city of Carthage, an island fortress unconquered for centuries, protected by walls, water, and absolute confidence. He will lay siege for 7 months, build what should be impossible, and break a city that believed it could never fall. Watch the siege of Tyre now.